G'day folks, Links here, and welcome back to a new episode of Nomifactory. So it'll be a bit of a smaller progress update today, just because I haven't had as much time to play during the week as I'd hoped. But we have gotten some good progress though. We are firmly in IV now. We even have our first IV machine, which is the IV assembler, and that is so we could make HSSG coils for our blast furnaces. Which I think is the 5th tier of coils. So we're actually making good progress through the mid-game chapter, even making some very small inroads into the late-game chapter. Early game is basically finished. And where are we? And if we look at progression, yeah, we're doing pretty well. There's only 3 more tiers of coil. I say only. We're still quite a way away from the end. But yeah, there's only 3 more tiers of coil. But yeah, we have our first our first IV machine. So I've got most of the blast furnaces are now on RTM. There's only about 5 left on nichrome, and they'll eventually get upgraded when they become too slow. But they're fine for now. We got some new metals on passive though, so we got neodymium, palladium, iridium, and manganese phosphide, as well as HSSG. The manganese phosphide is required for the tier 1 and probably tier 2 microminers, but definitely the tier 1. And iridium we need for IV, for things like IV sensors, and we'll need it for IV energy hatches when we get there, which will probably be the next thing on the list, actually. I just need to get a cutting machine. I need an IV cutting machine, and then we can make IV energy hatches, I think, is the only... Oh, and I need to set up indium as well. But for the IV cutting machine, I actually want to build the Gregicality multi-block cutting machine. This one. So I want to build the multi-block one and shove it in the clean room. But this requires a load of... I keep wanting to call it GT++. This requires a load of Gregicality multi-block alloys, which means we need the alloy blast smelter. And yeah, I'm not looking forward to building that and setting that up. Because it mostly involves... Actually, I don't think it involves a lot of fluid crafting. Fluid crafting even in Nomi CEu, I don't know if fluid crafting just doesn't feel as nice to work with as it does in GT&H. But obviously the fluid crafting and AE2 in GT&H are still very heavily developed. But yeah, I try to avoid fluid crafting where I can in Nomi CEu. It just doesn't feel as nice to work with. But yeah, the ABS, actually, most of the recipes are dust, so it's more the fact that I think it needs like 4 or 5 different circuits. So yeah, but this is basically sort of where we are now. And I've scaled up DML a bit, so got more stuff set up. I've even started another layer. The magma cubes are actually for lava, and we're actually centrifuging the lava over here to get a chance at tantalum. The problem is it's a very slim chance. It's not a good way to get tantalum. This doesn't seem like a particularly good way to get tantalum. It's taken me the better part of 2 days to get like 1900 tantalum dust. So we'll see. I now have epoxy set up. So this is just the sheets, and also we have styrene butadiene rubber sheets as well to replace regular rubber. Because starting from IV, the cables need either silicone rubber or styrene butadiene rubber. Styrene butadiene rubber is easy for us to get because it comes from oil. It basically... where is it? So it's actually over here. So styrene is basically ethylene and benzene. And then styrene butadiene rubber is literally styrene and butadiene. Or you make a dust first and then you make the fluid. But yeah, it's basically styrene and butadiene and sulfur. So, and butadiene is just a direct output from the oil setup. And then epoxy is really simple because we're just doing the circuit 24 recipe. So that would be, so that's basically this recipe. Am I doing that one? Yeah, this is the one I'm doing. So yeah, so it's just this recipe, and basically phenol we're getting from, I'm just passiving that, we're getting that from oil. Epichlorohydrin we're also getting from oil. And acetone we are making with this recipe, with the non-consumable quicklime dust and acetic acid recipe. And acetic acid we're just making with the circuit 2 recipe, in LCRs. That's why we have like 10 million LCRs here for phenol, acetic acid, acetone. And then we're also making polyvinyl butyrol. That's needed for IV tier glass. So for, you know, IV machines like the mixer and the cutting machine and whatnot that need IV tier glass, or laminated glass is what it is. I just need to passive the plates, which should be fine. It's just another fluid solidifier. But yeah, basically the reason, I don't think you need it in huge quantities, but it's just easier to passive it at this point, especially because, like I said, I'm trying to avoid fluid crafting if I can. But yeah, it's the tree farm up here is gone. There's still some stuff up here, but the tree farm is gone now. The rubber setup is mostly gone. Obviously, I've not completely ripped it out, but it's got no inputs anymore, so it does nothing now. So this platform is still inching closer and closer to being gotten rid of. It's just not a huge priority right now. And then we also, the reason that we made epoxy was basically so we can get nano circuits. So we do have nano circuits now. But we also need nano circuit. The other reason, the nano circuits are the cheapest HV circuits. There is a way to make them cheaper later on when we get advanced SoCs. So then we'll get 2 instead of 4, and they use less inputs and whatnot. But we can't actually get advanced SoCs yet. I think that needs Naquita, which we don't have yet. I think you do Naquita in IV though, so I think we will have Naquita soon-ish. But the other reason we need nano circuits is to make the first LUV circuit, which is the nano processor mainframe. So we definitely want to make the and the first use for LUV circuits will be, we'll make the IV circuit assembler, but I also want to start beefing up power because we have all the bits in place to start making high-octane gasoline. I think acetone was probably the last product I was missing, and we now have that on passive. So I just need to passive the high-octane gasoline line, which is like, I think that's like 4 more LCRs. And then we can start using that for power, and start moving away from the dynamos, from these numismatic dynamos. But the extreme combustion engine, which is what we want to use, so it's this thing. It requires LUV. It requires an LUV circuit. It also requires a lot of tungsten steel, I think. So yeah, we do need to actually, it requires quite a lot of tungsten steel. But each one will output an IV amp, and then later on we can boost it with liquid oxygen, which is made in a vacuum freezer, to have each one output an LUV amp. And basically we'll hang on to those until we start making plasma in fusion reactors. So I've also just done a really rudimentary oxygen setup here. So this is just basically sand into glass, macerate the glass, centrifuge the glass dust to get silicon dioxide, and then throw the silicon dioxide into an electrolyzer. We're just avoiding the silicon dust that comes out. We don't need that. We get silicon dust from electrolyzing clay in our DML setup over there. So and we have our first microverse projector set up with auto crafting. So the way that this works is there's two recipes we're interested in from the tier 1 miner at the moment. One is a miner, quantum flux, and a gemstone sensor. And that recipe gets us apatite and tricalcium phosphate, which will obviously give us phosphorus. And the reason we want to be able to easily do this is so that we can, well, we need phosphoric acid for a few things, but we need phosphorus dust and phosphoric acid for a few things, but we also need to be able to keep a stockpile of manganese phosphide, so then we can keep building these tier 1 micro miners. The other recipe is this one. So, which gives us dense iron ore, which we're just ignoring for now. It gives us, cassiterite ore, redstone, nickel. But the biggest thing it gives us is ilmenite ore for titanium, because titanium is then used in the T2 microminer. So basically, what the way these microminer missions are mostly structured is the tier 1 microminer will give you titanium, which is used as part of making the tier 2 microminer. The tier 2 tier 2 missions give you the various ores that give you tungsten, so like scheelite ore, for example, and they go into making the third microminer, which is made from tungsten carbide. So and basically so each microminer is made of a specific material, and you get the inputs for that material from the previous microminer. So like the tier 4, what is that? So that's so like the tier 5 is iridium, for example. It's made from double iridium plates, etc. So that's how they typically work. And the way I'm doing the recipes is basically the same as what I've done for my multi-blocks. So rename a piece of paper in an anvil to whatever you want, and then make the recipe output that piece of paper, and the inputs are whatever you need. The miner, in this case, the miner, the quantum flux, and the gemstone sensor. And the way that this works is there's a job completer card in this interface. So as soon as this begins crafting, it'll just get automatically marked as completed by the ME interface. The old way to do this involved using a little redstone contraption with a level emitter that had a crafting card in it, but you don't need to do anything like that anymore. We have this card now, and this is more TPS friendly than the previous way of doing it. So otherwise, I'm just outputting with a standard ME output bus, and again, because I'm not bothering with fluid crafting as much, I'm just passively feeding the rocket fuel in with a ME input hatch. So what happens is if I run the ore mission, for example, you know what? Let's run it. So if I do, tier 1? So if we do tier 1 ores, we run it. It will it's crafting the microminer. And then and then now it's running the mission. So, which takes 13 seconds at EV. And that's giving us a lot of ores. And then what happens is all of these ores have now ended up in here. With the exception of the dilithium ore and the dense iron ore, because the dense iron ore requires nitric acid to process. And basically each dense iron ore gives you 16 regular ore. So basically the mission gives you 1,024 iron ore in total. But I can't be bothered setting this up yet. I mean, we get iron from DML, so I don't think there's anything else iron even gives us that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really interested in any of this. We can get it from DML. So I might even throw dense iron ore away. I think it's more useful in hard mode. But the way this works is I've now set up the mainnet to... so we have a storage bus on mainnet, and it's an ore dictionary bus that just sends any ore, except for dilithium ore, into the ore processing setup. And then the ore processing setup is the exact same as before, where it's just storage buses on chests. The reason we don't send the dilithium ore in is because dilithium ore requires a full HV amp to macerate. And these are EV macerators running on a HV line. But as you can see, for pretty much every other ore, they only need an MV amp, even though they're EV. So even though they're EV macerators. So I could actually upgrade these to IV, and this line would still be... Yeah, this line would still be basically fine. I'd have to get rid of one of them if I was to upgrade to IV, because they drain 480 each, and this is only a 4 amp thing. But yeah, so that's... So yeah, that's basically how that's effectively how we're going to be requesting resources now for the rest of the game. There should be no reason for us to go and mine anything. There should be no reason for us to go and mine anything. The only thing stopping me from making the tier 2 miner, as far as I'm aware, is the fact that I don't have the extended crafting tables yet, but they're probably next on the list after the IV energy hatch. But yeah, so, I mean, the thing is, I will have to scale up ore processing. And what I'm probably going to do for phosphorus is build another microverse projector here, have an ME interface with a crafting card on it to request the tier 1 miner gemstone sensor and quantum flux from the network. But maybe just have a LV input bus. Yeah, maybe just have an LV input bus or something where essentially so it can only, because the microminers don't stack. So basically I just wanted to be able to essentially only request one. Or only keep one in the interface so it doesn't keep endlessly requesting them. And then what I would do is actually put a level emitter and a redstone control on the microverse projector and have it basically run the gemstone sensor mission whenever we're running low on phosphorus. So basically try and passive incoming phosphorus. And we will actually be passiving more microverse stuff later on, but for now just being able to request it on demand will do. But eventually we will have, we'll have one that's, passively requesting phosphorus whenever we need it, etc. But, and yeah, we'll have other resources as well. Yeah, we'll have microverse projectors tied to other resources as well. But that's not something we need to worry about right now. So if I go check my list, what else have we got? So we've got... Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. It's not as much progress as I wanted to make. I really wanted to be looking at high octane gasoline by this point, because that will, just like pneumosomatic dynamos temporarily solved power for us a while back. Getting high octane gasoline set up is essentially the next power milestone, and that will basically remove, because if everything is turned on, I don't have enough power. So I could just scale the Numis more, but I think we'd be better off just doing high octane gasoline. And then eventually, once we get to fusion, we'll be starting to look at plasma, and then I'm not sure where it goes. I'm not sure where we go after plasma. I think we just keep spamming plasma until creative tank, I think. But yeah, so that's kind of where we are. Obviously tree farm's down here. The tree farm is now level emitted. That's just to save a bit of TPS. Not that I'm struggling for TPS, but yeah, the tree farm does eat a decent amount of CPU time when the farming station is checking for things to harvest. So I have a level emitter that is turning it on and off based on how much wood we have. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. I think that's pretty much it. So I definitely wanted to make more progress, but yeah, we're firmly in IV now. So next steps, I want to make the IV energy hatch. I need an IV cutting machine, and rather than building IV cutting machines, I would rather just build this thing, which is the Gregor-Cowley multiblocks cutting machine. The problem is it needs specific alloys, in this case haste alloy, which requires the alloy blast smelter. I don't think there's any... Yeah, there's no other way to make it. It needs the alloy blast smelter. And yeah, the alloy blast smelter is it's a little bit annoying to do. But yeah, so the plan is, wow, that's... Oh, but it's at MV. Okay. Yeah, that's at MV. But yeah, that's 2400 seconds at MV. But I think that's like 40 ingots or something. I think that's like 40 ingots or something. So, yeah, so basically I just want to get some Gregicality multi-blocks set up. The first thing will be the cutting machine. The next thing will be the laser engraver. Because then once they go in the clean room, we just have to keep upgrading the energy hatches on them, which will be really good. So, yeah, so that's going to be that. And basically, because these are all EV, and we can't make the IV energy hatch with an EV cutting machine. So, yeah, so the next thing on the list is going to be getting the GCYM multi-blocks in here. So then we can more easily upgrade our circuit and wafer infrastructure. And I think I'd also like to get phosphorus doped wafers in a passive blast furnace as well. But I've been kind of holding off because I didn't have the microminer set up, which means I didn't have a good source of phosphorus. But I do now. So yeah. So if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and I do appreciate it. And hopefully I will have a better week next week, and I will actually make some really good progress. So I will see you all later, and I hope you have a lovely day.